Hello, Kendall. Welcome to Power Women Wellness. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I know I'm excited that we actually connected on Instagram. My assistant, I don't know, somehow came across and she's like, oh my gosh, follow her. She's like, awesome. And I'm like, okay, sure. So
So
that's
cool.
how we met. So first, tell us your background, like how you got into your career and yeah, your flow.
Yeah, so my journey really started back in high school when I was running track and cross country. It's like the cliche athlete story, but I was running track and cross country, kind of started losing like a little bit of weight. And at the time I'd gotten on social media and was like following all these like fitness accounts, was like super excited. Started to like lose some weight, got excited about the weight loss, and I actually ended up swinging the pendulum too far one way that led into an eating disorder. And so
Wow.
that ended up kind of being like the social media side of things was the thing that kind of perpetuated it, but it was also the thing that helped me heal my relationship with food as well. So it was really cool to be on like
Mm.
the dark side of the internet, but then also that go to the light side of the internet where like that actually then became my strength where I recovered and I became obsessed with fitness. And by the time I had graduated high school, I had shared my entire eating disorder recovery journey and like my fitness journey on social media. And so I graduated with like a pretty large following, which was crazy at the
Wow.
time. It's like back in
Love that.
2016. So social media
Wow.
was like kind of new, like kind of up and coming. And so I started a fitness coaching company right out of high school, and that took off pretty quickly. I was selling like digital products and things like that. And then fast forward a few years later, like I had built a pretty successful coaching company, and then people were asking me like, "Hey, how are you doing this?" And when the pandemic hit, everybody had like
Mm.
lost their gym job, and a lot of people were like how can you help me? And so that's when I kind of pivoted over to business coaching, and I started
Yeah.
teaching other coaches how to take their business online. And so it's kind of funny, everything was like accidental, like the next step was kind of accidental for me.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful for all of that happening because it's landed me where I am now today. I'm a wealth and business coach. I work with over 300 women, helping them start and scale their coaching companies, and most of them are like wealth or are health and fitness coaches too.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, so tell us more about, yeah, your like the eating disorder and like social media and more of like how that like impacted you because eating disorders impact like the entire body. Everything from hormones to gut, like you name it.
Totally.
So and I love that there's nothing that just shows an authentic journey, like you sharing that, which is so key, as you know, to just the whole business side of things is being able to share
Totally.
that. And so you are
Totally.
like you were doing the work even before you didn't even know you were doing the work, but you were doing the work.
I didn't. I had no clue I was doing the work. Um, but yeah, I mean, to your question, like going back to my eating disorder, I mean, it was a really tough time. Like my body, I was really young. I was like 14 when I started like really like following the whole social media trends. And like the thing for me was I was a runner, but I was obsessed with like the bodybuilding community. And like I went on later to compete in bodybuilding as well. And like no shade or anything in any capacity, but like when you look at those girls who are like 4 weeks out, 2 weeks out from like bodybuilding competitions, they're eating like tilapia and asparagus and like oats with like literally nothing on it. And so my thought process was like, okay, well, I need to eat extremely clean. I need to
Yeah.
eliminate like dietary fats and just like really low calorie. And so that ended up leading me down a path of, I would say at the time, orthorexia wasn't necessarily a diagnosis, but it was more of
Yeah.
like I was extremely obsessed with clean eating. And so I got diagnosed with anorexia at 15, later to kind of find out like it was that I ate. I just like was extremely clean. And so I had lost obviously a ton of weight, but like I think more importantly, the thing for me was just like the mental spirals were just so incredibly tough. Like it just felt like it was an uphill battle every single day. And there was like no way of getting out of it. And I didn't know how to ask for help either, which was like the
Yeah.
hardest part because I totally denied myself for the longest time until
Yeah.
eventually it was like a problem in school and things like that. And so that's when I like finally reached out for support and like told my parents like,
Yeah.
hey, like I really need to like pivot and do something different because I like want to have a normal high school like journey,
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that point because I was so young. And I just didn't really have like the influence around me, and I
Yeah.
was really isolated to like shift. And so that obviously affected my body, and it like later went on to bring on a lot of perpetual issues that I have had to heal now through my 20s, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Um,
You're
but
definitely not alone though.
yeah,
I see that a lot. So
yeah,
usually when our patients have that history, I'm like, this is a road and it's
yeah,
definitely not going to be a short one or an easy one, but like we're gonna make it through. But there's lots of
totally,
layers that happen.
totally.
But yeah, I know social media is such a blessing and it's such a curse all at the same time. And
Yeah,
so that's why I'm like,
totally.
I'm neutral. Some people hate it. Some people like love it. I'm like, I'm neutral because I feel like it
Yeah,
just depends on how you use it. But I do think that it gets girls a lot too in the comparison trap. And even like not full blown eating disorders or anything like that, but just gets us in like a mental spiral of just
yeah,
seeing, but not actually seeing what's happening internally or like what is not being shown on the camera to get there. And so I
right.
always remind people, I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes the fittest people that look like fucking incredible. Honestly,
Yeah,
I've seen their blood work, I've seen their testing.
yeah,
So
yes,
it's just like,
yeah,
don't like maybe use that as like that motivation, but don't be like, oh my gosh, I need to do exactly what she's doing to like get like that because everyone's bodies is so different. So I'm like, it's a
totally.
blessing and a curse because I love it. I love when I like right before a pump and I start seeing I'm like, ooh, that girl's glutes looking fire. Nothing gets me more
Yep,
motivated to lift heavy. So that's like again a
totally.
blessing, but just making sure that you have those boundaries to, yeah, protect mental health and stuff like that. So
Totally. Yeah, and I just didn't know how to do that at the time, which was the most
yeah,
difficult
you're
part for
so
me.
young. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that
Totally.
too is like you're so young. Also, you're so young and you're badass and you built what you built too. So that's amazing. So you're obviously a go-getter right out of the womb.
Yes, yes, yeah, from a young age for sure.
I love that. And the other day you shared a reel, and I love it because I felt identical. Like I felt exactly what you said about like creating a life that you don't have to vacation from. And I say that all the time because I'm not a travel person. I'm such a homebody. My husband literally is like, "Has your car left driveway?" I'm like, "Absolutely not." In like 5 days, and it's been amazing.
I love
But
that.
I love that you really have created such a life that you just love. And it was a reel that I think you were just sharing your routine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like exactly my routine. Like, I mean, I have like some
Yes.
kids and stuff in the mix, but for the most part, I'm like working out and then working and just all that. So
Yeah.
give us like a little day in the life of like what it looks like from
Yeah.
blending, working, taking care of yourself. We love to be a little
Yeah.
nosy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I will tell you, like my days look a lot different now than they did probably, I mean, a year ago and then like
Yeah.
5 years ago, And so I would say like the biggest thing for me is like I've really learned how to embrace flow a lot more. Like I'm such a floaty person. Like I really require to like dance between like my masculine structure and like I love working hard. I love the holy hustle, but then like I also really like my playtime. And that's something I've learned over time because I used to be so anxiously attached to my day and like my routine and my schedules and things like that. And so now it's very different because like I am a CEO, I do run a company, I have 14 team members, we have 300 clients. And so my days are, you know, it's important for me to be like in my zone of genius and doing the things that
Yeah.
like I really, really love. And so I used to be wearing all of the hats and I used to be doing all of the things all of the time is what it felt like. And so now it's, it's variant on the day. Like I definitely am the kind of girl who I have my CEO days, I have my client days, and then I have my me days. And so for me, the way that I kind of operate right now is like I wake up in the morning. I'm not this like crazy strict routined, like you'd maybe think a lot of people think like, oh, I must be so regimented all the time. I wake up and I have like a similar morning. It's a very like simple, boring life that I live. But when it's fun, it's like really fun. So I'll wake up in the morning. I'll typically get in like, my water. I'll have my like skincare routine. And typically for me, I'm the type of person who likes to get right into my deep work. I'm not like, I used to meditate in the morning, I used to do all these things. And I think over time, as you start to like understand yourself and you start to become more grounded just on like a day to day basis and like regulate your nervous system on a day to day basis, routines kind of change. And so for me, my routine's been pretty simple in the sense that like I wake up, I get my like, go to the bathroom, supplements, water. Then I'll do an hour of deep work. I'll typically go to the gym and then I'll get right into my work blocks. My work blocks are either like CEO stuff that I need to do, or it's like client stuff that I need to do. And then for the most part, because I am in like that visionary creator role inside of my company right now, and just like with what I'm doing, a lot of my days will look like, then just creating or building. And I'm like I said, kind of floaty in the sense that like I'll usually finish work around 4 or 5, but it depends on like what am I feeling? What do I want to get into? Like, do I
Yeah.
want to go hang out with friends? Do I want to build more? And like I'm not shy to like spending more time on my laptop if that's what I'm feeling like doing that day. And there are definitely seasons where like I'm in more of a building season and I have to lean into the holy hustle a little bit more. And I do have to get more done. And then yeah, it's like hanging
Yeah.
out with a partner or like hanging out with friends. My weekends,
Yeah.
I'm typically not working right now, which is so nice. I like really am so grateful for that.
I
So
love
yeah,
that. I love that. I know, same. There's times where I'm just like, I just want to work more. And my kids are older now. They're 14 and 11. So they're definitely not little. They're pretty
awesome.
much not on their own, but they do their own
Yeah,
thing. And so they know that I'm just like, ooh, I want to work, but like let me sit in front of a couch and like have a movie on. Or and like I'll like while
totally.
you watch it or whatever. And then sometimes where, yeah, it's just a strict cutoff. I'm like, nope, can't do anymore. Like I'm tapped out
Yeah,
and just need a second.
totally.
And I know as a woman, you probably know, like your cycle definitely has a play in that. So
Yeah,
I definitely, once
yeah.
I'm getting closer to my period, I tend to like create more of like, nope, gotta cut it off. And I
I
just want to
love
read
that.
or whatever. So
I
just,
love
yeah,
that.
being in tune is like
Yeah,
so key. Something that a lot of women struggle with is delegating, which I don't know why, because that is like so easy for me. So,
yeah,
but a lot of women do struggle with that and they're like, I don't know where to start. So, do you have any advice there? Because as you know, like
totally,
you can't do it all. You can't wear all the hats.
totally. So I first just want to say, like, to anyone who's listening that has trouble with delegating, like, I'm sending you a ton of love because I've totally been there. And like having like your like whatever it is, whether it's your business or whether it's like childcare or like whatever it might be, like that sense of control and like knowing that you're going to do something a certain way is so beautiful to some extent until it's not. Like until you
Yeah.
genuinely like have no bandwidth left and like you can't take care of the thing the way that maybe someone who has that zone of genius would. For me, delegation, it's not just been about delegating, it's about like building up the human being. And I think like that's the most beautiful thing about delegation, in my opinion. Like, I love my team so much. And each person that's been on my team is like such an incredible culture fit. And I think that's what's really important is like, number one, get really clear on like your vision, get really clear on the values and your company principles. Like, we have a set of operating principles that like we do everything based off of. It's kind of like a playbook on how we make decisions as a team. And I got really lucky that early on I got so obsessed with personal development and like so obsessed with understanding psychology and how people work that when I made my first hire, I mean, don't get me wrong, I had to make a lot of fires. And I also did this like recruiting agency for a little bit that I had myself. So I taught people how to hire and things like that. So I learned a lot about the hiring process. I also learned about what not to do in the hiring process because I also made like a lot of fires. And so once I got really clear on my company values, my vision, my operating principles, it was so easy for me in the interview process to be like, this person's a fit or they're not a fit. And so
Yeah.
when I would bring people on, a big part of how I would bring people on would also be, oops, you can hear me. Do you
Yeah, I
still
can
hear
hear you.
me?
Yeah.
You are okay. A big part of how I would bring people on would be like based off of those set of like cultural values. And so then it was really easy for me to know that like I can delegate to this person because I know that they're going to carry things out probably the way that I would want them carried out. And if they don't, that's totally fine. Like they are going to mess up, they're going to fail,
Yeah.
they're probably going to fall on their butt, and that's totally fine. I think the feedback loop from the failure is what helps you grow. And I wouldn't have been able to
100%.
build the business I have if I didn't have the people I have in the places I do because they've built processes for me. They've failed and fallen on their butt before. And that in and itself has allowed for me to build new processes and like refine the process. And so if you're having trouble delegating, just recognize that like you can only be in your zone of genius when you actually hand the things off that are outside of your zone of genius. And it's okay if they don't necessarily go well. Like they might fail, they might fall on their butt, but that's also an important part of like you might find a whole new process or system just from your
Yeah.
team member not doing the thing that they were supposed to do or the way that you wanted them to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I know I go so based on like just, I don't know, my intuition is like pretty fire. Like it's never
Yeah.
steered me wrong. So I know within like the first 5 seconds, I'm like, is this gonna work or is it not gonna work before I even ask
Yeah.
questions? It's just like a feeling, I guess.
Yes.
And it's
It's you're a
never
people
steered me wrong.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like
Yeah.
I lean into that. I trust that and I just don't even question it. And
Awesome.
it just all works at the end of the day.
I'm
Um,
totally the same. I'm the same
yeah.
way.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. That's a gift. I totally feel like that's a gift.
That's
Um,
the funny thing though, is like in saying that, I just have to add this in saying that, like I definitely work that way and I operate that way. And that's what having a team has really taught me is like everything's up here in my head and I'm intuitive. And that's why I had to build like the operating system and principles because I'm like, well, I just know. And my team's like, well, I get that you just
We
like
don't
know, but like
know.
how? Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that part of delegation is also important because
Yeah.
I was very much doing that before I actually sat down and built the playbook.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I know. I always say build the playbook before you think you even need it because by the time you need it, you're a little
Yeah,
bit behind. So I was building
totally.
out like a training manual when it was just me. And if you on like looking at it, you're like, why? You don't have
Yeah,
anyone to like delegate or read
totally.
that. But I'm like, I know, and my future self thanked me. So
Your future
thinking
self
ahead.
loves you for that. Yeah. Yeah.
And then when it
Exactly.
comes to delegation and a lot of entrepreneurs, it's always for me, for my journey, it's always been like it's been like a faith leap of like the next hire. But is there
Yeah.
from your experience a time when it is like, you're kind of nervous to make that financial commitment, whether it's salary or hourly, but it's still like a financial commitment, and then hiring that next person to making sure that are covering that. It's always, like I said, mine's a faith leap of like, I know I need this. I'm just going to do it and it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
And it has. But if you have something that's a little bit more
Yeah.
strategic and can say it, please feel free.
Yeah. So there's this book by Benjamin Hardy that I freaking love. It's like
Ooh,
in Dan Sullivan. It's like the best book. It's called 10x is easier than 2x. And
that
if you
sounds
haven't
really
read it,
familiar. I'll
you
put it in
should
the show
read it.
notes.
It's such a good book. It is such a good book. It changed my whole life. It talks a lot about like the identity that you need to let go of to play a bigger game and also like what you're doing that you need to let go of to like play a bigger game. And so something that I do pretty consistently are time audits and I look at like where am I spending my time and like it's a very like structural masculine thing to do in the business, but like one of my mentors a few years back taught me to do it and I basically would look at my day and be like, I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be doing that. And like, if I were to 10x my business right now, like, what things would fall off? And like, what would I no longer have the capacity for, like, be unavailable for? And so for me, a lot of how I make hires is based upon like, where should I be in the company? And like, what's the next role that I need to take those things off of my plate? And so it can definitely be so scary, especially like it's important to be in a state of abundance. I'm definitely a very delusional person. I will say like I'm highly delusional. And it's gotten me
We
this
love
far. So
that. That's an
I'm gonna
entrepreneur, to be
keep being
honest. If you're an
delusional.
entrepreneur, you're
Yeah,
delusional.
I'm just gonna keep being delusional because it has gotten me this far. So but I will say like I definitely think that there is a leap of faith that is necessary. I definitely see a lot of people hire too soon, I will say. I've seen that a lot, especially in like the coaching industry and the wellness industry and stuff, where like, yeah, you can probably make it to a certain revenue number without needing to make a hire. But as soon as like your product or your service starts to degrade because you no longer have the bandwidth to service clients because you're over here and you're like doing sales and you're doing all these other things, you either need to work to increase your capacity as a business owner to hold space for all of those things. And if you find that you've done that work and now you're like, I genuinely just need a support system, then yes, like you are going to have to maybe front some cash and like bring in a VA or bring in like an assistant or somebody to supplement, depending on the type of business that you have to take those things off your plate. And something I learned this last year too that has been so helpful is I started domestically delegating because I always just thought about like how do I delegate my business? And now I have like someone who helps me around the house and like someone who cleans and the things that I literally hate doing so much. I don't like
Yes.
cleaning. I don't like house things. And that's been really game changing. I wish I should have made those hires before I made some of my team hires because one, it's
I
usually more
agree.
cost effective and I don't want to clean my toilets. I really don't want to clean my toilets.
I think I remember, yeah, I remember you sharing that, and I'm like, hands down, my husband's so dramatic, but he will say, he'll be like, that saved our marriage. I'm like, you act like we were on, absolutely not, sir. So like, no, that's not true, but we are
Don't
both
have it.
definitely the people that like we thrive in like really clean, organized environments, and
Yeah.
so we've even, yeah, we dabbled into like, yeah, having someone clean every couple weeks, and it wasn't enough, especially having like teen and a tween. And so I just
Yeah.
need more help. And so when we got a house manager, it was like an absolute game changer.
Yes.
And I always say, like,
Yes.
oh my
It's
gosh,
the
if
best.
you, like you said, it's really cost effective too. But if you can delegate that, delegate that. Because then, like, yes, it opens
Yes.
up more work time for you to do. So you
Totally.
can, like, kind of work there. But yes, fave. I feel
Totally.
like fave hire out of all of it.
I feel that on a spiritual level. I feel that, girl. Yes.
So, and tell us more about, I know you were talking about like cycles and flows. So tell us about like your honoring that creative cycle, because I know it comes and
Yeah.
goes and it sucks when it's gone, but it's amazing when it's here. So would love to kind of hear what that looks like for you.
Totally. So, I mean, you might have even seen my story this morning. Like, I was up at night. You'd probably be mad at me looking at my screen this late. Okay, I promise I have my blue light blockers on. I promise. But I like sometimes just get in these flow states. Like last night, it was like 9 p.m. and I was like, I need to. I have to. I must. Like, I just was so excited to
Love
like
that.
build. And it's not something that happens like often, like in the evenings, but when I do have creative energy, like I will capitalize on it. But the most important thing for me is I always know and appreciate the seasons that I'm in. And when I'm in a building season, I do whatever it takes to protect my creative energy as much as I can. And no matter what the season is, and this is something I think as you mature as an entrepreneur, you like really learn is like self-care
Yeah.
is number one. Like it is
Yeah.
number one. It used to be like I'll do all the business stuff and then self-care. And it's like it doesn't even like nothing matters if I am not okay. And so
Yeah.
I've really done a lot to protect my creative energy to where the cycles that, maybe ebb and flow are not as few and far between. Like I'm more creative than not. And I've also found like a lot of it for me personally has been whatever story I'm carrying around being creative is what creates the cycle. So like I used to
Mm,
tell myself like, oh, I feel like I'm just not creative and I'd get into the comparison loops. And so for me, I did a dopamine detox a few months back and I basically like stopped scrolling. I stopped watching TV. I stopped my consumption. I was extremely careful about what I watched, what I didn't watch, who I followed. I unfollowed like 1,000 people on social media, which was really difficult, by the way. It was really
so
hard to do. I was
therapeutic.
like,
So therapeutic though.
it really, yeah. And I was now I'm really grateful. And I like even had to like message some of my like closest friends and be like, I love you, but like I'm not consuming your content right now. And so
Love
just
it.
like being really, yeah, just like being like, be careful what you're available to when you're unavailable to. And so for
Yeah.
me, my cycles, um, I do 90-day game planning with my team. And so we're always really aware of the projects that are on the board. I have a really awesome operating system inside of my company that we use that like really makes sure that I understand where I need to be when and like what I'm working on. And I wish I saw more entrepreneurs doing this. It's why I'm so obsessed with teaching systems. It's just because I like to flow and I like to have
Yeah.
pockets of creativity. And I just think a lot of people get so caught up in like winging it and doing whatever they think is next and always having to be doing the next thing. And that energy is like kind of soul sucking. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
what's next? And like, let's figure it out. And you're moving quickly. And I love that grind, but also I want to chill. I want to relax.
Yeah.
Like I want to have my weekends to
Same.
myself. I want to be excited about the next project. I want to be able to source and channel ideas, not just like feel like, okay, like we need a masterclass launch. Like what's the next idea? And so for me, a lot of it has come down to like, yeah, protecting and conserving my energy. And then also like making sure I understand what's happening in my life and in my company to where I can open up more space for creative cycles and creative flows. And then when I'm in the hustle season and like I am leaning in a little bit more and I'm building, I have to put it on my calendar. Like I'll literally put like visionary time block in my calendar or else I won't spend the time doing it as
Yeah.
frequently as I need to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know sometimes you got to put like the simple things that don't have an appointment. So technically you don't need to put it in there, but like you got to
Yeah.
put it in there. And sometimes like people have to do
Yeah.
like working out, like put it in there like an appointment, or like sometimes it won't happen if you
Yeah.
don't. So yeah, I feel that. Quick shift because I know that fitness is a big part of your journey. Is there a type
Yes.
of workout that you feel like is essential for all women?
Oh my goodness. What a good question. I just feel like to some degree, like women should be weight training,
For sure.
in some capacity, like, and even if it's like going to Pilates and just putting a little bit of acute stress on your body to some degree, that's what I've always done. It's what I've always known. A few years back, started really opening myself up to different modalities of fitness because I got really bored, just like weight training. I was like training jujitsu and doing some
Yeah.
functional stuff, which was so fun, which I totally like would love to go back to. But yeah, I think some modality of like acute stress
Yeah.
with like weight training. I wish I could speak to more of like the other side of fitness, like the functional and the hybrid athlete side. I just like don't partake in it,
No.
like
Yeah.
cardio
No,
is
I
just like
agree.
not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I love that. And now quickie, now shifting back to business, I saw that on the questionnaire that I had you fill out. You use Notion, which I love. I use Notion and ClickUp. I love them both.
uh,
But
yeah.
let's geek because I'm the same way. I am all about like systems organization. That is like my second love. I
Yes.
love that you. So tell us how you use Notion.
Yes.
Made you choose Notion because there's a lot of options out there. I will say the only
Yes.
thing, which I don't think it's on there, the one of my favorite things I use ClickUp for because Notion is definitely more like personal stuff, but I love ClickUp because I can email like right through there, and that's like my jam. I don't think
Yes.
Notion has that to my knowledge, but that's why I love ClickUp.
Yes.
But I love Notion too.
I use two. So I mainly use Monday.com as my operating system and project
Okay.
management system.
Yep.
Love her. We manage all of our, so I'll kind of tell you how I use that and then I'll tell you how I use Notion. I'm newer to Notion, but I love her. I'm obsessed with her. I'm like learning
Yeah.
all the different like nicks and, tricks and stuff. But in Monday.com, like all of our client management happens over there. So like renewals, re-signs, like understanding client gifting, birthdays, anything like that. When clients are due for calls with me, same thing, team reviews, anything like that. Like all of that stuff is automated. Emails can go out, like you mentioned. So like that's really awesome for just project management. Every week my team meets and we look at like what are the projects that are on the board, how far along are we on each project, which has been a lifesaver because I always know what's happening, like I mentioned earlier. Like I always know what's happening, which is so nice. I was using it as a content calendar. However, Notion recently came into my life like early just this year.
Oh,
And so now I do a lot of like my ideating and like organizing my thoughts on Notion. So like recently a big part of how I've been using it is like we created a template inside of our company for content calendar. We've also been using it for like more data tracking. So like our client habit trackers and looking at, what are you executing on? Are you getting the things done? And also like Notion is so amazing. It has so many templates to just like download and use that other
I
people have
know.
created.
I know. It's
Saves
slightly
me so much
overwhelming,
work.
but I can definitely
It
like
is.
go down the rabbit hole if I spend
It
time or
is.
two.
It is. And so I'm going to be looking at, migrating some course material over there because I just think it's so well. It's like so cool that it's just like a template that's open
Yeah.
and you can just make it like whatever you see inside of your brain is like what you can put on the template. And so
Yeah.
being able to do that and create like courses in there and I manage, like I said, a lot of my thoughts like research or um I recently did a whole burn down of like my ideal client, my brand, like all the different aspects of the business and just put it in a board. And it's like, cool. Anytime that anyone asks me like my brand mission, vision, ideal client pain points, like it's all on that board. And so I've just been organizing my thoughts into different boards,
Yeah.
which has been so nice.
I know. I know. I love falling down like the rabbit holes of that. Like that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like such a second love. And I felt that way when I got
Totally.
into Good Notes. And then I always say like my iPad is like my favorite like tech that I have because I use
Yes.
I have like ClickUp and Notion on there, but then Good Notes, and then I like there's so many amazing, cute planners and you name it on like Etsy that you buy and then you upload into Good Notes. So that's where like my planner
Yeah.
is, where I literally will write because I'm
Awesome.
definitely still a writing girl. Now I'm
Are
out of the
you?
paper, but I love the
Yeah.
digital planning because it just
Yes.
helps me like yes, exactly from day to week to month and just like write it all out and stuff. But yeah, I can't live without that stuff. And so that's why I honestly know that there's
Same.
some brands out there that I'm just like, they can be huge brands, but I'm like, are you just like absolutely chaos inside? Like, because cool, like you have that revenue, but like I
Totally.
would be losing my shit if I didn't have
No,
organization.
like it's so crazy consulting on some really big companies. Like I like lift the hood up and a lot of people come to me for like operations and marketing strategy and stuff. And so I lift the hood up and like I'm like, how have you been functioning at all in
Right?
any capacity? Like I'm confused actually. But
Yes.
then also you have it's like their nervous system is like completely dysregulated and they're just like winging it and like I'm like, girl, we need to get it together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Well, tell us more about like what are your go-to meals, which I think that was actually one of the things that you hiring house help actually has helped with like meal prepping. So what are some of your go-to
Yes.
breakfast, lunch, dinners that non-negotiables?
Totally. Okay, this is I love this question. So I will just first say that I'm still very much an advocate for Postmating once a day. I'm just gonna put it out there. I have house help and I have all my meals prepped for me, but it is like my guilty pleasure once a day, and I'll get into that. But I'm such a routine human being. It is unreal how much of a creature of habit I am that like I actually have to consciously rotate through meals or else like my gut microbiome is gonna be like, girl, we gotta switch
Not
it
enough
up.
variety.
Yeah, like we gotta switch it up. I'm gonna start becoming averse, but like I literally every morning I have this like my house manager is amazing. She preps all of my food. Also, like shout out to Trader Joe's website because I have like I tended to be such a creature of habit. I would eat the same really boring meals, like the boring rice and chicken and like the vegetables and whatever. And like Trader Joe's um website has amazing recipes on there that are just like
Okay.
incredible. Yeah, they're incredible. And they give you
Interesting.
like gluten-free options, vegan options, all those types of things. And so I'll kind of rotate through. But same, my house manager is awesome. She makes me a loaf of sourdough once a week. And so like every morning it's
Love
like
that.
sourdough and like an egg scramble. And I'm typically doing like some kind of almond butter situation. And then my meals throughout the day, I have like this, it's so funny. I have this like staple chicken lemon orzo. It's actually like a soup, but it has like a lot of
Oh, that
grainy
sounds
stuff in
good.
it. And yeah, I'm like on a soup kick. I have like, again, I rotate. Like I'll like do that meal for like a month. Then I'm like, all right, I'm sick of it. Let's go to the next one. And like I do eat, I will say I do eat a lot. I'm naturally just am a very active person. I have to consume a lot
Oh,
of food. I currently work with a fitness coach who has me on a bit of like a nutrition system. And so he has me eating 5 meals a day, pretty well structured. I have kind of like structures for my meals instead of tracking. So it's like get greens at this meal, make sure that you have, about 40 to 50 carbs here, about 30 grams of protein here, or something like that. And so I kind of have structures for all of my meals. And so I just stay within
nice.
the structures of the meals. I order Chick-fil-A grilled chicken sandwich every single day with a diet lemonade, and I have zero shame. It is my staple. I tell everyone it's like my staple every single day.
Oh my
It never
gosh.
fails. And then it's usually like a protein, carb, veggie for dinner. I'm just like
Yeah.
very simple. And
Yeah.
then like a nightcap, which might be like some cottage cheese and some like fruit or like an oat bowl or something like that. But I mean, I tend to eat like very whole foods.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like I kind of pivoted from like I used to track macros and do that whole thing to now it's like, okay, how do I optimize my energy? How do I make sure I'm fed? Because the last thing I want to be thinking about is how hungry I am on that call. And I
Yeah.
just eat off like often throughout the day and eat like really wholesome meals. Every meal has to have protein in it for me, or else I just
Yeah.
don't get enough of it in.
I know. I know. Or I'm just like hungry all the time. Like protein's king.
Yes.
So were
Yeah.
you in the cottage cheese craze, which I feel like it's still actually a craze, but have you made anything really unique with cottage cheese? Because I've seen a lot out there.
Girl, I wish I could say I'd made
No?
anything. I haven't cooked in like I haven't cooked in so long. It's so
Oh my
funny.
gosh.
I was never good at it to begin with. But now that I don't have to, I'm like I'm out of the kitchen completely. Although I will say the
Oh
egg scramble that I
my gosh.
make in the morning has that like my house manager makes for me, it does have cottage cheese in it. But I'm just like a
Mm.
sucker right now for frozen cherries,
Oh,
almond
I've
butter,
oh,
and cottage
classic.
cheese. So good.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've never had that combo, but I do
I
love all
know.
those.
Yeah, yeah, so good. So
I
good.
love that. Okay, amazing. Any other, I know you mentioned the book that I wrote down to put in the show notes. Any other resources, podcasts, books that like stand out to you that was really helpful, whether it's business, health, you name it.
Oh my goodness. Um,
I know, loaded question for someone
well,
who loves to learn.
I know. I'm like, what would be the most helpful for people who are like listening in? Like I'm happy to drop that like content calendar if there's anyone in your audience who is like building out content and like use that as a resource. But no, I would say anything by like Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy are just like such great books. If you're really looking to like level up your leadership and delegation is something you struggle with, I really recommend The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, John Maxwell. Anything by him for like leadership and really understanding how to like create autonomy for yourself, create autonomy for other people in your team or company is just, he's amazing. And I love the way he teaches leadership. That has helped
Yeah,
me a ton.
amazing. And where can people find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me. I actually have my own podcast too on a lot of like stuff, entrepreneurship and content. Um, it's called the Strive for Strength podcast. If any of you guys want to listen in, and then I'm the same across all channels: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. You just my full name, Kendall Strampel, if you want to find me.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me.